Hi everyone and welcome to my ranking of the Planet of the Apes films. So yes, here we are, finally. It's been roughly 6 months or so that I've been going back reviewing these films. Of course, a couple of them I'd never really watched. Certainly for many years, or even all the way through. And of course, yes, this is a very kind of divisive franchise. There's a lot of ones, especially the original sequels that are not popular at all. They're known to be very bad films. Of course, the Tim Burton reboot, whatever that film is, it's of course shunned by many. There are defenders, of course, which is fine. But yes, basically, very up and down franchise. The reboot trilogy is mostly very popular, but again, you've got some kind of a strong hate base for especially War and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes as well. Of course, but yes, let's just get into it. Of course, my least favorite to my favourite, so it's not, this isn't fact, of course, it's just my list, personal preference and what I believe to be, the best and the worst, of course, and actually, going into this and not seeing, I don't know if I've seen, all the sequels, the originals before, but, I think either that or just very rarely have I ever seen them, so it's very interesting to go back, kind of watch them in order as well, and of course, yeah, actually, going into this, realizing not a lot of the films in this franchise are bad. In fact, the only one that's bad is my number 9, and that is Planet of the Apes, the Tim Burton version. There are defenders. I think that's fine. There's, of course, yeah, I can see what some people say about the production and stuff. Of course, a Tim Burton film is usually interesting. At least he is a great director on form. One of the greatest for me, certainly in modern cinema. Edward Scissorhands, all this kind of stuff. Personally, for me, this film, it's certainly not an interesting Tim Burton film. It's the only one, that doesn't actually intrigue me in any way whatsoever. This film is absolute trash in my opinion. I absolutely detest this film. This film is just dead in many levels. Yeah, I can understand visually how some people like it. I wasn't actually a big fan really of the visuals overall. Quite bland. The rest of the film, wow. The characters, Mark Wahlberg, of course, his character and his performance included, absolutely non-existent. You have a decent bit, the opening on the ship and stuff, but from then on, it goes downhill. There's overacting, there's this, bland acting. Just this film is one of the most boring films I've ever seen. Tim Roth just gives an awful performance. I think the makeup is overdone a lot of the time in the film. It's just a really bad film, an awful film nearly. I think definitely far and away the worst in the franchise for me. I absolutely hate this film. It is one of my most 100 hated films of all time. I despise it, and again, respect to those who love it or or like it. But for me, it's awful nearly. Very bad. At least I can't remember what I gave the film when I reviewed it, but yes, I hate this film, and definitely the only one for me that's bad. Now we have, of course, definitely the least popular one, apart from the Tim Burton version, and that's Beneath the Planet of the Apes. This one basically follows on straight after the first, and then it goes all different directions. I think it definitely started off, as a film that I liked, although the kind of repeating, the first one but done worse in worse ways is very bizarre. And of course, there's definitely B grade stuff in there. A massive dip from the first. Nova is good in the film. Charlton Heston when he's there at the beginning. Yeah, definitely good. And he returns again in the rest of the film. But unfortunately, this takes a dip in the second half, especially. It's very kind of uninspired locations. There's not too much to say about this, but it does some really at times pretentious and just really off tone and kind of things that don't work. The kind of futuristic stuff in the film. These scientists that come into it. For me, definitely a misfire. I can't remember what I gave this one, but kind of mediocre slash weak. Definitely just not a bad film, but one that is under par and overall doesn't come together. I don't think it really knows what it's trying to do, and just definitely a massive step down. Of course, after the original classic. So next up, of course, is Conquest for the Planet of the Apes. Now this is definitely a one that I've forgotten quite a lot of it already. I don't think I'd seen it before. This kind of whole rewatch of the franchise slash watch. I can't remember much, but what I do remember, is definitely a mixed bag. I think overall it was an okay film. You know, it's definitely better than people say. Again, forgettable within the franchise, but you know, it does have actually a really good ending. I remember the ending act. There's a really good speech. You know, it's kind of a rousing kind of climax there. And Roddy McDowall, very, very good in the film. Yeah, it's got some interesting things going for it. It's very it's poorly made at times, bizarrely made, but at other times, you know, it is actually quite compelling. And yeah, I overall like the film. Definitely quite forgettable in places, but you know, it does redeem itself in the second half, and overall, just you know, not a bad film, pretty average. So yeah, there's that. Next up is Battle of the Planet of the Apes. Now this one, you know, it's definitely underrated. I actually think it's really, really good how, you know, there's peaceful moments at first. It's just very, very, very nice and kind of tranquil. And then of course you have towards the end of the film, there's the actual battle, and I did care about, you know, this kind of this group, this community. That's what really portrayed well. Is this whole kind of community of apes. Yes, it's bizarre in some moments again, like a lot of these sequels. But you know, I did care, and Roddy McDowall once again giving a really good performance, and I just think it did have some good characters in the film. Unfortunately, the actual battle itself is very underwhelming. No excuse here, just not really too much effort put in there. You know, it's very very low budget. I think you know, it just wasn't up to much. Quite boring at times, the battle, but you know, it's definitely decent in its storytelling overall, and you know, the characters, the overall kind of feel of the film, and just you know, certain standout moments. It's definitely, you know, it's okay, nothing special at all, and yeah, but for sure an underrated film. I don't quite get how, you know, this is hated so much, but yes. And number 6, of course, and number 5. Next we have, of course, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Now this is the one that's really, really, again, very bizarre, but this one is very, very good. This is a step up from my number 6. You know, this is one that combines comedy, you know, in a very particular way the other ones don't do. And of course, yes, it's just you know, Cornelius and Zero. You know, there's some really, really compelling stuff that goes on here. And yes, you know, I think definitely, you know, it mixes comedy with drama, you know, pathos really, really well. It does have a very good script at times, and just the performances, the overall, the charm of the film, you know, really very unique film within the franchise. You know, this is actually quite a popular one, of course. And yeah, I think definitely of the original sequels, the very, very best, no question. It's far and away the best of the sequels, the originals. You know, I think definitely, I don't agree with the ending, how it ended. It was just very, very cheap and kind of pointless. But you know, and it did have some flaws, of course, throughout. You know, the open as well is very bizarre. Yeah, as I've said in my review, check out my reviews, of course, to these films if you want more in-depth stuff. But yes, you know, definitely, I really, really enjoyed this. At times, I love the film. I love what, you know, what they've done with the kind of the media and stuff in the film, and yeah, just very well made overall. You know, it made me care, and it did move me, and you know, really entertaining film. So yes. Next up, we have, of course, the first in the reboot trilogy, and that is, of course, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this film, as I said, it does have some flaws, but overall, great film. You know, the narrative of Caesar rising, this is something else. You know, it does have some, as I said, it does have some, you know, kind of bad romance in the film, you know, involving James Franco's character, but James Franco himself is great in the film. You know, the love interest, as I've said in my review, was really, really bad and just not needed at all. But you know, I think the rest of the film is mostly great / very good. You know, it's kind of you could say lacking style or kind of true direction at times. But really, you know, this film is great. I think the narrative, the characters, the emotional kind of resonance it has, the action. You know, it's always better than I remembered when I see the action in this film. You know, kind of the final set pieces. You know, they're great, and of course. Yeah, maybe it doesn't end up in the way that I wanted it to with Caesar and of course James Franco's character. But yeah, I think you know, because it lacked a lot of emotion there and it didn't really follow on from the rest of the film. But definitely a one that, you know, it is a great film, and yeah, it's kind of you know, in terms of the visuals and stuff, cinematography slightly underwhelming at times, but overall definitely a great film. So yes, at number 4. So of course here is when you know, it kind of gets into very, very close at times, maybe for some at least. You know, for me as well, quite close in some ways. You know, between his top three, these are all for me, you know, masterpieces. You know, I think these are films I absolutely adore, and head and shoulders for me above the rest of the films in the franchise. And first of all, we have maybe the most popular, you know, film in the franchise now, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this is a film that is just absolutely stunning. One of the best modern films, you know, of the 2010s. This is an absolutely stunning film. The awe-inspiring visuals, the battles, the kind of action set pieces are wonderful. The interaction in this film with the humans and the apes is great. Maybe at times, you know, the human stories, you know, definitely not as good as, you know, the apes. You know, definitely not really flawed, but just, you know, maybe if they'd gone even further with this, it would have been an even better film, of course. But that's just a tiny little thing that, you know, could have elevated the film. The rest of it is really flawless for me. You know, direction. Matt Reeves came in here and he really elevated the franchise, this trilogy especially. You know, with just wonderful direction. This is genius stuff in some of the ways action is put together, and just Caesar here is just so good. Andy Serkis once again up in his game, and the visuals here are far, you know, improved over Rise, and just going for a more realistic, kind of just, yeah, just a richer experience in the visuals. And yes, the great CGI here, which, you know, at times CGI in films, you know, sometimes isn't great a lot of the time, but here, and certainly with War as well, it's definitely great visuals. You know, it's just a wonderful film. The soundtrack is something else, and you have the Shakespearean moments. You know, of course, with Koba and Caesar. What a climax, and that set piece is something else. This film, you know, it's just, I love everything about the film. Yeah, it did have some things that could have been even better. You know, not flawed pieces, but ones that could have gone higher, and it would have been, you know, kind of a bit higher on my list. But for me, definitely the third best. I know some people say this is the best, which is definitely understandable. For me, it's just the fact that, you know, the next two are just even better, even more masterful. You know, and a great film at number 3. And next up, you know, is definitely, yeah, this is the one that overall, if you take into account the critics, you know, and just people, general, you know, pop culture and stuff, this is the most popular. It's one of the most popular sci-fi films of all time. The one that started everything here, you know, of course, with this genius creation, and that is the original Planet of the Apes film, with Charlton Heston, of course. This film has always been one of my favourites. You know, it's just a great film in every sense. It's a masterpiece. You have the kind of, for me, you know, just great opening act. This builds this atmosphere, the sense of many things. You know, it's wonderful. It really is. And you know, then of course you have just Charlton Heston giving a great performance. Such a great protagonist here. For me, you know, definitely the best human character. You know, in all of these, you know, Planet of the Apes films. You know, I think it's just absolutely brilliant. And you know, the way, of course, that it mixes drama and definitely comedy in there. Great comedy, you know, and stuff. And as a thriller, as a sci-fi, you know, this really stimulates the mind, and you know, just raises so many different interesting topics, of course. And just the way this film ends up, you know, this is a flawless narrative. The way it ends, of course, it's one of the greatest ends of all time. And just, you know, I really find comfort in this film. You know, and it's just a great film, you know, that I'm fully compelled by. You know, of course, I've loved it since I saw it quite a young age. I just absolutely fell in love with the film. It's such a genius creation, you know, of course, and just the direction, the editing. There is a weird moment, you know, with that laugh, you know, with Charlton Heston very early on. That's literally the only thing that I don't think maybe should have been in the film. You know, it's very bizarre, but, you know, it's done in a way that, you know, it can kind of be overlooked a little bit. It doesn't hurt the film or dock a mark off. This really is pretty much a perfect film, and just combines many different genres to create really a masterpiece for me. It's just among the greatest films of all time, and absolutely adore it. And yes, number 2. Now we have, of course, the final film, the latest, of course, Planet of the Apes film, and that is, of course, War for the Planet of the Apes. You know, in 2017. This film, I didn't have, you know, the kind of, I didn't think basically it could top Dawn, you know, and stuff, but the trailers, I don't usually watch trailers too much, but the trailers did look great, and, you know, I thought, let's check it out. I got it on 4K, of course, and yes, you know, this film completely blew me away. For me, this is the pinnacle of the franchise. This film, actually, in particular of the reboot trilogy, the new trilogy, gets the most hate. And I think I can understand if people, prefer Dawn, but I think it's certainly head and shoulders for me above Rise. There's no question there for me, and this is more of a kind of adventure film again. It's a return to the original in its roots in many ways, but again, something that just kind of elevates the emotions to heights that the rest of the films in the entire franchise do not do. This places the characters and stuff above, maybe above anything compared to the rest of the franchise. This is the one where the emotional payoffs are here. Just this whole journey comes to an end. It's a very, very tragic film. It doesn't have as big set pieces, you could say, really. Definitely not as layered set pieces, but it's one that combines the action with the drama and the emotions to the perfect blend. And for me, it just elevates higher. I think it's just more investing. As I say, it's an adventure film as well. And I think the smaller this kind of group gets over these films, the more compelling it is. Of course, you have Maurice. Is just, of course, a great character. When I saw Rise for the first time, I thought, I can't wait to see more of this and the relationship between him and Caesar. And of course, very wonderfully done, their relationship, the way it ends. Of course, you have the mute girl as well in the film, who's basically a reference, of course, Nova to the originals. And she's great in the film, and of course you have so much great comedy in the film. Steve Zahn, playing one of the characters, the kind of comedy relief characters, and this is how you do it. This is how you add comedy to a film like this, and just a wonderful film. Woody Harrelson as well. This film for me is flawless. It's an absolute masterpiece. It's in my top 200 of all time. For me, the finest in the Apes films. It doesn't. It's not a kind of as much of a thriller as the original, or it's kind of more of a, as much of an action film, you could say, as Dawn, of course. But this film, it just means a lot more to me than the others in the franchise. It's just a very particular feel this film has. I think it actually has the most heart, and of course, all the way leading up to that very, very, kind of beautiful ending. This is stuff that really moved me to tears, and for me it's the most spiritual, and it's just the best, the greatest in the franchise, that combines many different things, the adventure, just as a drama, and I think the way this comes to a close, for me, tops the others in the trilogy, and actually just edges out, of course, the original. Maybe the first time that I saw this, I didn't think, instantly I didn't think, is it better than the original? But very close. And of course, I just think it's grown on me even more. Since this whole franchise watch / rewatch. And yes, in my personal opinion, the best in the franchise. Certainly the one that I prefer, to the others. And it's just an absolute masterpiece of cinema. Very underrated film. So yes, there's my ranking. Probably quite a long video actually. I meant to do it short, but yes, there's my ranking. Again, just my opinions, of course. And leave your opinions in the comments. Be very interesting to see, of course, if people have actually watched the entire franchise as well. What the exact rankings are. Very divisive kind of franchise. Especially be interesting to see the kind of the original sequels, how people, compare them. But yes, for me, a great franchise overall. I think. As I say, the only bad film in the franchise is the Tim Burton one. Just one of the many blunders, really, unfortunately, of a great director. Definitely his low point for me. But yes, overall franchise, I really care for. And just, of course, when it's at its best, great works of sci-fi, action, adventure, and very unique drama. This original film could have been bad. It's a risky film, risky concept, but luckily, producing some great films within this franchise. So yes, thanks for watching my ranking.